So you want to create or maybe improve upon a framework in your business, but you're just not quite sure how to do it. Well, my friend Mel Abraham is an absolute expert, and he's going to break down for us what makes a great framework. And he's getting very specific. We're going to be talking about shapes and colors here. So you want to pay attention if you have a framework in your business already, or if you want to, this is the highlight episode for you. And so can you help me selfishly understand like what makes a good framework? If somebody is listening to this right now and they're like, yeah, I don't have a framework. I don't have a visual around that, what I teach. How would you get them started?
So there's two things to think. And I'll walk through the four pieces of a powerful framework in a second here, but I think that you hit on it that there's a lot of different learning styles out there. When I capture, when I'm speaking and I'm creating content, I actually catalog my content in a very specific way. I know what the point is I'm trying to make, but then I catalog it in the sense of I define upfront what my analogies are or metaphors. I capture them on a document. I decide upfront because that speaks to the visionary, the emotional visionary abstract thinker. I capture the stories that will bring the point home. That speaks to the more detailed emotional person. So it's really the right brain that we're speaking to. I capture the stats or the steps that they need. That's the data wonk, the people that are detail oriented and want the logic. And then I capture the framework. And so what happens is I'm exercising the muscle of capturing and cataloging the content that gives me the flexibility. Say I'm going to speak to a group of engineers. I know that I'm going to lean to the left side of their brain. I'm going to lean to the logic side, but I don't have to go research. It's already done. And I've done the work to allow me to speak to creatives, to speak to logic folks, to speak big thinking, detailed thinking, all of that. And I think that we tend to not do the work to allow us to set things up. But there have been times that I'm betting that you've watched someone on stage. They do a presentation. It could be 30 minutes, could be 45 minutes, could be an hour. And you look at them and you go, oh, that just dented the surface. There is much more to them. And the reason there's much more to them is because they did the deeper work to know when we take your framework, you've got years and years of knowledge that go along with that framework that you might present in a half an hour, but the people are sitting there realizing, oh my God, there is so many more layers to her and to what she knows. And so that's the first thing to realize is that it's not just something that we slap together. And I'm going to throw this out at the beginning. Cute doesn't sell. I want effective. Okay. So I know that we want to keep it in brand colors, but you know what? Red, yellow, and green have an impact psychologically on us. And if we understand the psychology behind it, we will depart when it's necessary from our brand colors and trying to make things cute. So there's four things that you want in our framework. The first is the formation. That is a combination of circles, triangles, and squares. Okay, those are the only three shapes that are out there in the world. If you want an oval, squash the circle. If you want a rectangle, squash the square. But those are the only three things. But if you think about it, the question is, what is the impact on the mind, the psyche of a specific shape? If I think about a square, it typically is boundaries, it's structure. If I think about circle, it's a lot of inclusiveness. And so there is this underlying psychology behind the shape. A triangle can sense growth or direction or movement. So we need to understand what shapes are going to tie to the point we want to make, the formation. The second piece is that we want to look at the information that we want to put in place, okay? And the information is the stuff they need to know. And here's the challenge that a lot of us will do is that we know a lot of stuff. The first time I did a live event was in 2012, and I had 30 people in the room, and I gave them 3 days of entrepreneurship and all kinds of stuff. It was a ton of good information, and it was totally useless because I dumped everything on them. We need to think about, I tell people to use the 3-hour rule. We're going to go to a gourmet coffee shop like Starbucks, and we're going to sit there for 3 hours. I'm going to have the time with you for 3 hours. What are the points, the 3 to 5 things I need to know if I'm never going to see you again? That's it. Stop there. Because the reason we stop there is our job is to get them a micro success so they have the belief in themselves to take the next step. not to get them all the way there because it's too overwhelming. So we need to set them up for success. So what's the information that needs to get them from point A to point B, not all the way to Z? This is where a lot of people stop. The other two elements of this is where it starts to come to life. The third element is emotion. What emotion do I want to instill in the framework, in the delivery of the framework? Is it angst? Is it desire? Is it frustration? There are all those emotions that we can put into it. Is it possibility? Is it aspiration? How we build the framework has to have an emotional, compelling element to it. And so we decide up front, because that's what attaches us to the heart. What's the emotion I'm trying to create with this image or this diagram that I'm going to create? And then the fourth framework is the thing that brings it to life, and that's orchestration. So we have formation, we've got information, we've got emotion, and we have orchestration. You never, ever turn around and take your framework and slap it up on a slide or slap it up on the board. Because remember, as I said, our job is to control their focus. And so what happens is if I take a framework that has, say, 8 or 10 items on it, when I'm speaking of item 1, they might be looking at item 4 going, I wonder what he means by that. And now I've lost their focus. So the magic is in the orchestration and the reveal. And you think about the reveal of the letters and with Vanna White and all that stuff. And so what we typically do is we build the frameworks for them step by step and make sure that they're with us every step of the way and make sure that they're in the right emotional state every step of the way. So when it is complete, they go, ooh, I get it. I got it. I need it. That's the key. Now, if you go back and you watch or listen to this, I just did exactly what I told you verbally.
So good. I'm sitting here going, okay, intuitively, my community framework is circles. My retention accelerator framework is a triangle. And it's all lining up. Didn't sit and plan it from a psychology perspective. But even just going back in my brain, I'm going, okay, how do I apply this to my frameworks that are already existent? And going, oh, yeah, I get it. And I did have a feeling about circles and I had a feeling about triangles. And that's what led me to choose those shapes for those different frameworks that really call people to a different sort of feeling. And I love that you really tie in the emotion and the orchestration piece because I have seen frameworks presented in a way that defeat the purpose of the framework because it's overwhelming. They just they just put it all on there. And I'm also pretty sure that the information part was just like, here's everything I've ever learned in my entire life. And let me put it into a framework because someone said I need a framework. But what I hear you saying is that's not the point of this. The point of this isn't to distill your life's work into one graphic that has like 50,000 layers and takes 2 hours to teach. It's about taking one core concept and a few key pieces of information and displaying them in a visual way that's not just, oh, here's a visual that fits the shape and size of what I'm trying to do and has enough spots, but actually keeps in mind the emotions we tie to those different shapes. But then creating it is just the start, right?